Imagine standing in a forest of towering trees. Now imagine one of those trees starts to move. That gives you some idea of what it was like to see an Alamosaurus. This dinosaur was simply colossal. It was one of the largest animals to ever walk on North American soil. Its neck alone was longer than a school bus, stretching high into the canopy to strip leaves from the tallest branches. Its body was a walking mountain of muscle and bone, supported by 4 legs as thick as ancient tree trunks. Each footstep would have made the ground tremble, a deep, resonant boom that warned every smaller creature to get out of the way. This wasn't just an animal, it was a force of nature. The sheer scale of this creature is difficult to comprehend. Picture a modern African elephant, the largest land animal alive today. Now imagine an animal that could be up to 10 times heavier. Alamosaurus could weigh as much as 70 tons. Alamosaurus could weigh as much as 80 tons, a truly staggering figure. Its tail was a long, powerful whip that could have stretched for dozens of feet behind it, a formidable defense against any predator. When this giant moved through the landscape, it would have been an unforgettable sight. It was a true king of the plant eaters. Standing next to just one of its leg bones would be a humbling experience. You would have to crane your neck to see the top of it. The bone would be wider than your own body. These were the pillars that held up a creature of almost mythical proportions. We often think of dinosaurs as ancient monsters, but Alamosaurus was a real, living animal that breathed our air and walked on our continent. Its presence reshaped the very world around it, clearing paths through forests, consuming vast quantities of vegetation every single day. Its size was its greatest advantage, keeping it safe from almost everything. Seeing one in the flesh would have been both terrifying and magnificent. The sound of its breathing alone would have been like a great bellows. The soft rustle of leaves as it pulled entire branches into its mouth would have been a constant soundtrack to its life. This was not a fast-moving animal, but a slow, deliberate giant that moved with a steady, unstoppable rhythm. It was a peaceful herbivore, but its size made it the undisputed master of its domain. For a long time, we didn't even know for sure that such a titan lived right here, in what would become Texas, during the final days of the dinosaurs. The story of how we confirmed this giant's home takes us to the rugged, beautiful landscape of Big Bend National Park in Texas. It was here, in 2001, that a team from Sul Ross State University made a truly groundbreaking discovery. A student, Dana was out searching for fossils in the park's dusty hills. Her eyes caught the shape of something unusual sticking out of the rock. It wasn't just any old bone. It was absolutely enormous. What she had found was a vertebra, a piece of the dinosaur's powerful neck. But this was no ordinary neck bone. It was a piece of an Alamosaurus. This single bone was a bombshell for the world of paleontology. It was the first definitive proof that Alamosaurus had lived in this specific part of the world. Scientists had found other fragments before, but they were often incomplete or found in places where their age was uncertain. This vertebra, however, was found in a layer of rock that could be accurately dated. It told a clear and undeniable story. A colossal sauropod, one of the biggest of all time, was roaming the swamps and forests of Texas right at the very end of the age of dinosaurs. It was a stunning confirmation that changed everything. Finding the bone was just the beginning. Getting it out of the ground was a monumental task. The team had to carefully chip away the surrounding rock, a slow and delicate process that took many hours of patient work. The vertebra itself was huge, much larger than a human head. It was heavy and dense, a solid piece of fossilized bone that had laid hidden for 66 million years. As they worked, the sheer size of the animal it belonged to became more and more apparent. This wasn't just a big dinosaur, it was a true giant, a titan of its time. Once excavated, the vertebra was taken back to the lab for study. There, scientists could confirm its identity. The shape and features of the bone were a perfect match for Alamosaurus. This discovery filled in a huge piece of the puzzle. It wasn't just a fossil, it was a key that unlocked a new chapter in the history of North American dinosaurs. It proved that these giants weren't just a myth or a guess. They were real. They were here. They were one of the most spectacular animals to have ever lived on the continent. The student's sharp eye had led to one of the most important finds in decades. The discovery of the Big Bend Alamosaurus was so important because it helped solve a long-standing puzzle. This puzzle is sometimes called the sauropod hiatus. A hiatus is simply a gap, a break in time. For paleontologists, this was a massive 30 million year gap in the fossil record of North America. Sauropods, long-necked plant-eating giants. Brontosaurus, Diplodocus. They seem to have vanished from the continent during the late Cretaceous. Triceratops, T-Rex. While those dinosaurs thrived, the giant sauropods were mysteriously absent. Imagine a photo album of North American dinosaurs. Lots of sauropods in the earlier Jurassic. Then, for a very long time, the pages are empty, as if they had all disappeared. Scientists wondered why. Did they go extinct in North America? Or did environmental change, new plant types, make survival impossible? For decades, it seemed the age of giant sauropods here had ended long before the asteroid. This 30 million year gap was one of paleontology's biggest questions. It just didn't make sense. Sauropods dominated ecosystems for over 100 million years. Why disappear when climate looked suitable? Some said the fossils were hiding, we just hadn't found them. Others argued for a local extinction, while relatives thrived elsewhere. The mystery was deep and fascinating. Then the Big Bend Alamosaurus changed the conversation. The fossil dated to just before the Great Extinction, the end of the Cretaceous. It proved sauropods had not completely vanished from North America. They were here, and they were huge. The long hiatus wasn't a full extinction. Instead, sauropods seemed to have made a dramatic comeback. The question shifted. Not did they disappear, but where did they come from after being gone so long? The giant Texas bone closed one door and opened another, even more exciting one. So, if Alamosaurus appeared in North America after a 30 million year absence of giant sauropods, where did it come from? The most exciting theory is that it was an immigrant. During this period, South America was home to a spectacular group of sauropods called titanosaurs. We're talking about creatures like Patagotitan Argentinosaurus behemoths that could have weighed close to 100 tons. They were the undisputed kings of their continent. Alamosaurus was one of them, a North American titanosaur. For millions of years, North and South America were separated by a sea, making it impossible for large land animals to cross. Toward the end of the Cretaceous, a land bridge may have formed, or perhaps a chain of islands connected the continents. That would have created a pathway to migrate. Alamosaurus or its ancestors seem to have taken that opportunity. They traveled north, leaving South America and venturing into a new world. One of the great migrations in Earth's history. Imagine these giants island hopping or trekking across a narrow isthmus to reach new lands. When Alamosaurus arrived, it entered an ecosystem filled with famous dinosaurs. Herds of Triceratops, duck-billed hadrosaurs watched as this colossal neighbor appeared, and the top predator, T-Rex, faced a new type of prey. So massive that even a fully grown T-Rex would have had to think twice. The connection to South American titanosaurs makes Alamosaurus special. It wasn't just a relic from an earlier time. It was part of the last great evolutionary push of sauropods. These southern giants were bigger and more robust than many ancestors. The presence of Alamosaurus in the final days of the dinosaur era tells us something profound. This animal wasn't part of a dying lineage. It was a member of a thriving, successful group that had just conquered a new continent. It represents the very peak of sauropod evolution. It lived and breathed in the same world as T-Rex Triceratops right up until the very end. When the asteroid struck the Earth 66 million years ago, giant titanosaurs like Alamosaurus were likely still browsing on the treetops in what is now Texas and the American Southwest. They were among the last of the great dinosaurs. This makes the story of Alamosaurus both magnificent and tragic. It was a symbol of the incredible power and endurance of the sauropods. After a 30 million year absence from North America, they returned in grand fashion, bigger than ever. They successfully adapted to a new environment and established themselves as a key part of the ecosystem. It was a stunning comeback story. But this triumphant return was cut short in the most dramatic way possible. The final chapter for these titans wasn't written by evolution or competition, but by a cataclysm from outer space. The Big Ben discovery helps us piece together what the world was like just before that catastrophic event. It shows us an ecosystem that was rich, complex, and full of giants. The fact that the environment could support an animal as massive as Alamosaurus tells us that the planet was still very much a dinosaur's world. It wasn't a world in decline. It was a world that was vibrant and full of life, right up to the last minute. Alamosaurus is our eyewitness to the end of an era, a final, glorious statement of dinosaur dominance. Thinking about Alamosaurus reminds us that the story of the past is always changing. A single bone, found by a sharp-eyed student in the Texas hills, can completely reshape our understanding. It shows us that there are still so many secrets buried beneath our feet, waiting to be discovered. The tale of this giant immigrant, one of the last and largest of its kind, is a powerful reminder of the incredible history of our planet and the awe-inspiring creatures that once called it home. It was the end of a dynasty, the last of the true titans.